You might be thinking, if you're super rich, what problems do you have? The problem of too much money? Too many assets? Woe is me, right? However, before we hastily jump to conclusions, let's understand that we're all humans. And as humans, regardless of our wealth, we all have problems. We all have our own personal demons that we have to wrestle with on a daily basis. And there is a chance that the secret fears of the super rich could easily become your problem one day as well. Because if you're following the slow and steady money principles I lay out on this channel, I'm confident that you'll build a sizable wealth in your near future. It may not be in hundreds of millions, but enough to categorize you as wealthy. So in the spirit of always learning, let me share with you 10 secret fears of the super rich so you can be aware of them and hopefully mitigate them as you grow your wealth. And just FYI, the findings are based on a study done by the Boston College Center on Wealth and Philanthropy titled The Joys and Dilemma of Wealth, a study that deep dives into the lives of the mega rich, most who had at least $25 million in assets and an average net worth of $78 million. And hi, if you're new to the channel, my name is Tay from Financial Tortoise, where we learn to grow our wealth slow and steady. The number one secret fear of the super rich: they never feel financially secure. Despite having amassed more money than most people can imagine, many of the study's respondents said they still did not consider themselves financially secure. Many say they would require on average a quarter more wealth in order to feel financially secure. One respondent was bold enough to say he wouldn't feel financially secure until he had $1 billion in the bank. Remember, this is a group of people with assets in the tens of millions of dollars. The respondent's average net worth was $78 million. With even a few billionaires mixed in. Kind of crazy if you think about it, right? But in another sense, not so crazy. Because the value of money is relative. Money is only as important or not as important as the value we assign to them. What the study showed was that many super wealthy, and I'm not saying all super wealthy, but many derive so much their worth from their wealth. Thus, they never felt like they had enough. They always wanted and needed more. Thus, we want to continually cultivate the habit of recognizing and identifying our enough. Enough to put a roof over our head, enough to put food on the table, and enough to enjoy the company of our family and friends. Recognize that more isn't always better. We don't want to find ourselves in a position where we have money, but find ourselves continually pursuing more because we didn't learn how to be satisfied with enough. He who knows that enough is enough will always have enough. The number two secret fear of the super rich: they are terrified of financial loss. They worry about losing it, they worry about how it's invested, they worry about the effects it's going to have, and as the zeros increases, the dilemma gets bigger. Many of the super rich have a certain lifestyle that comes with wealth. Big homes, big cars, and big toys. And for many, dinner at an expensive restaurant is as regular as going to the restroom. Thus, when you're conditioned to a certain lifestyle, it's terrifying to think that you might not be able to afford it anymore. What happens if something happens to all the money that you own? What then? Again, this isn't that much different from the problems that many of us have. The fear of loss. When we were teens, we had fear of losing our friends. When we started our careers, we feared losing our jobs. When we started our family, we feared losing our kids. And when you're super rich, you often fear losing your money. Thus, again, going back to the importance of our early habit of identifying our enough. The idea that we might lose something we value is definitely something to worry about. I worry constantly about losing my health, my family, and most importantly, my amazing hair. But to constantly live in fear and worry is not healthy. So let's learn to harness the power of money, but also recognize that money is only money. It doesn't define who we are as individuals. The number three secret fear of the super rich: many lack authentic relationships from their lives. Many super wealthy live with worry that many of their relationships are contingent on their wealth. How many people we know would cut us off if they don't think they can get something from us? Relationships are a core component to living fulfilled lives. We don't need studies to verify this fact. How do you feel after a really positive interaction with someone? It could have been an authentic conversation with no specific agenda, or someone did something for you just because they wanted to, not because they had to. You feel grateful. You feel energized, you feel joyful. But imagine if you're constantly suspicious of people around you because of your wealth. And most people that you do have around you interact with you in a certain way because of your money. And what if you're a single person trying to date? Wealthy people of both genders are wary of gold diggers. Does he love me or my money? But at the same time fear that this wariness might make them mistrustful of genuine affection. This is why I'm a big proponent of frugal wealth, stealth wealth, or quiet wealth, whatever you like to call it. Living a rich life, but a quiet life, where people would have no idea of your wealth if they saw you on the street. You can't control how people will interact with you if they're aware of your wealth, but you can control how you show it. The number four secret fear of the super rich: they lack real conversation. In the line of authentic relationships, many of the super rich lack real, authentic conversations. There's a general tendency for many of us to glorify wealth and think that wealthy are smarter, wiser, or more blessed somehow. However, even many of the super wealthy admit that this oftentimes is not true. Just because a person has a lot of money doesn't mean he or she is genetically superior, more intelligent, and more gifted. Yes, they worked hard to get where they're at, but that doesn't mean they're better than anyone else. But we can't help it. We treat the super rich like celebrities, like someone special. And I admit I'm quite guilty of this as well. In my previous life, due to the nature of my job, I often find myself in boardrooms with many super high net worth individuals, and I had a real hard time approaching them like regular people. Yes, some of them did want me to approach them like they were special. I don't deny that. But thinking back, many of them were just down to earth people, no different than anyone else. And I'm sure they just want to have a regular conversation apart from their wealth. But when you're super wealthy and people know it, there's a natural social barrier that gets in the way, a barrier to authentic, real conversation. One of the coolest interactions I had with a high net worth individual occurred almost 15 years ago in Russia when I was there for a social service trip. I was riding a train, and just by chance, we got to share a train car with a group of older gentlemen who were cycling across the country. I was a young graduate student at the time, and I remember talking to one of the gentlemen extensively about his cycling experience, what he saw throughout the country, and what both of us found interesting about the culture. When we parted ways, we briefly shared our names and where we came from. When I got back to the States, just out of curiosity, I looked him up because I remember him mentioning he worked at a certain company. I was pleasantly surprised when his name popped up under the title of a former CFO of a major Fortune 500 company. Not once during our conversation did this gentleman mention anything about his successful career or his wealth. He knew how to have an authentic conversation apart from his wealth and former status, a skill I hope to master one day as well. The number 5 secret fear of the super rich. In the line of their struggle to have authentic conversation, they feel they have no right to complain. If a super high net worth individual talks about how they're having a bad day, and it is in any way tied to their money, most often people will respond with this: yeah, wouldn't I like to have your problem? Well, why don't you just give me your money then? Now, if a person is just complaining without any filter or just spoiled, yeah, even I would have a hard time listening to that. However, as I mentioned earlier, we all have problems regardless of our net worth. So it shouldn't be a surprise that rich people would have complaints as well. Being able to voice out our frustrations without feeling judged is important not only for our mental psyche, but authentic relationships as well. If we feel like we'll be judged for every small thing we say, we're forced to live life walking on eggshells, and that is no way to live. The number 6 secret fear of the super rich. They struggle with isolation. Many with extreme isolation. When you struggle with having authentic conversations, authentic relationships, and don't feel like you can be honest with anyone, it is only a matter of time before you start to feel isolated and alone. Wealth can be a barrier to connecting with other people. Humans are made to connect with other human beings. We crave for connection, a community. The movie Castaway wasn't a movie about a man trying to survive on an island. Rather, it was a reflection of our deepest desire for social connection. Why do you think Wilson the volleyball had more screen time than Helen Hunt? But when wealth gets in the way of that basic human need, it can have a detrimental effect on our mental health. Therefore, as we get better with money and build our wealth, let's not let the social aspect of our lives go astray. Continually find communities we can connect with. Relationships that aren't built based on wealth, but rather on us as people. The number 7 secret fear of the super rich. The fact that they never have to work again. I know what you're thinking. What's the problem with that, right? I would love to be in a position where I would never need to work again. And I completely agree. Most of us work not because we want to, but because we have to. We get up every morning and show up because we need money to survive. However, what happens when we don't need to work anymore? Because we have more than we need. Did any of us really have to wrestle with that question until we got closer to retirement? Life after work? Or life apart from work? Work plays a crucial role not only for our society, but for many of us, our mental psyche as well. Work fills most people's days, and it provides a framework to how we go about our day. Life without work, as many recent retirees will attest to, can easily become one of aimlessness. We spent our whole life measuring our life success through the career progression framework. And when that is gone or no longer necessary, we don't have a yardstick anymore to assess whether we're living a purpose-filled life. Financial freedom can produce anxiety and hesitancy. For me, this is why I consider it is so important to start asking this question early. If I could wave a magic wand and no longer need to work in my current occupation for money, what would I want to do? How would I want to spend my time? What will my ideal day look like? There's no easy answer to these very deep questions, but I challenge you to ask them sooner than later. You don't want to find yourself at the tail end of your career scrambling to find the answers to these deep questions a few days before your retirement. The number 8 secret fear of the super rich. The overall sense of self-worth or lack thereof. Based on the survey, this is a struggle that those who inherit wealth struggle with more than those who earned it. However, it is a real struggle worth noting. Many who inherit vast fortunes, whom Warren Buffett likes to call the lucky sperm club, understand that they're unlikely to find sympathy for the insecurities from many people. Thus, their sense of self-worth, or lack thereof, is made worse by the fact that they don't have many people whom they can process their problems with. Yes, some of these people do display the stereotypical arrogance of privilege, fast cars, and fast lifestyle. And even I admit I would have a hard time giving them much sympathy for their problems. But many do struggle with genuine worry that they'll lack the motivation to accomplish anything worthwhile in life and or escape the shadows of their parents. Which leads to the next secret fear of the super rich. The number 9 secret fear of the super rich. Their children's ambition, or the fear that wealth will rob their children of future ambition. Many of the super rich lack no resources for their children's education. Most send them to expensive private schools, hire the best tutors, and enroll them in all the extracurricular activities most parents could only dream about. However, could there be such a thing as too much resource? These super rich parents do think so. They're terrified that the presence of money could prevent their kids from wanting more. And this does make sense. If I think about my own life and my desire to make something of myself, it wasn't because I had all the best resources. It was because of lack thereof. I didn't realize it until well into my adulthood, but because I grew up without much, I had a chip on my shoulder and hunger to make something of myself. That hunger was what drove me to study, to do my best at work, and keep on pushing myself. But if you know your parents have money, and you know that money will one day become yours, what do you think that could do to your mental psyche? You go to the extremes. You either live an unchecked, super risky life because you know you have a safety net, or you don't take any risk because why the need? You are financially set. Have a boss that you don't like? No need to stick around, just quit and look for a new job. Or better yet, why need to look for one right away? Take some time off, see the world, and take it slow. Which leads to the next fear, the number 10 secret fear of the super rich. In the line of robbing children of their ambition, the fear that their children will grow up to become entitled adults. Money could mess them up, give them a sense of entitlement, prevent them from developing a strong sense of empathy and compassion. This might be one of my biggest fears when it comes to my children. Though they're still fairly young, my wife and I often talk about how the environment that our children are growing up in is so different from our childhood. They grew up in one home their whole life, practically undisturbed by any financial stress so far. By the time I was in my early teens, my family had gone through 2 bankruptcies, evicted from our home, and had to move pretty much every couple years. My wife's family had to survive on food stamps, and if it wasn't for financial aid, she would have never finished school. And this financial struggle from our childhood, in a way, motivated us to strive for financial security today. And we're thankful and proud of where we arrived. However, we also wonder if this is a double-edged sword. How can our children learn to value money? How can they learn to be driven by their own ambition in the absence of financial hardship? And I don't have a good answer because it's quite complicated and still a work in progress. As I learn more, I'll definitely share them on this channel. Alright, with all this talk of fear, you might be thinking at this point, if having money has so many problems, could it truly be the root of all evil? We could easily come to this conclusion, but that is not what I'm saying at all. What this study and this video is stating is that we all have problems. Whether you're surviving paycheck to paycheck, or part of the super wealthy worth billions of dollars, everyone has problems because we're all human. So if you don't have much money right now, don't think that more money will solve all your problems. Money is only a tool, and if used right, it can improve our lives. But if we place too much emphasis on it, it can rob us and our children of our life. Despite how much learning about money and learning how to harness it is important, let's be careful not to make it the center stage of our lives, no matter how ridiculously wealthy you become. Money is like fire. It will warm your feet, or it will burn your socks off. Thank you guys for watching. In the line of learning about the wealthy, if you want to learn the lifestyle of more balanced wealthy individuals, please check out my video here. Until next time, all the best.